Miles Morales has gotten a lot of shine over the recent years. He was great in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, he got his own video game, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and now in today's video I'll be talking about what if Miles Morales himself was in the MCU. Yes, technically I know he is in the MCU, but he isn't Spider-Man just yet. So in this what if, yes, we will be replacing Tom Holland Spider-Man with Miles Morales, and I think having Miles in the MCU not only would fit better for the character, but this is just my little way of trying to rewrite MCU Spider-Man in my own vision to make it a lot more impactful. Not to say I dislike Spider-Man Homecoming, but I think the movies could have gone a lot farther, and this is basically my own little way of trying to rewrite that. Also, shoutouts to Lightro Storm for assisting me with the script, and you guys can check out his channel in the description. I hope you guys do enjoy, and let's just get right into the what if. Now, for Miles to become Spider-Man, he obviously needs reasons behind it, and for Miles to become Spider-Man, I found a pretty simple way to set this up, and that's establishing a much older Peter Parker, like a grown adult Peter Parker, who was offered to join the Avengers, but never liked joining the big leagues, and liked focusing on helping out the little guys. We are establishing an older Peter here for reasons that I'll get into now. We cut to Civil War, where we are introduced to our new Spider-Man, Miles Morales. Tony would hit on Rio like how he did with Aunt May, and Tony still talks to Miles alone like how he did with Tom Holland, and Miles tries to hide his identity at first but gets busted pretty quick when Tony shows a video claiming that's Miles and it's him shooting out an energy blast. Tony says if he probably guessed, Miles can probably take out a whole city block with that type of energy if he really tried. Miles then goes on to explain what happened with how he became Spider-Man. Originally there was Peter Parker, the Spider-Man who kept the little guys safe, and gave the people a sign of hope much different than what the Avengers did. He was their own perfect hero. However, when Miles one day got caught up in a situation due to him just getting curious, he ended up being bitten by not only a spider, but also ended up being almost collateral damage in the battle between the Green Goblin and Spider-Man. However, Peter manages to save him from the rubble, but at the cost of his own life. However, like in the Spider-Verse, he can tell Miles is just like him, and he tells Miles to do better than what he could do, and he needs to step up to help out the people. The Green Goblin would be defeated because of the collateral damage as well. He's been Spidey for almost 2 years ever since, and he has powers similar to what Miles from the comics would have, like invisibility and energy blasts, aka venom blasts. And also, this is a perfect way to set up Miles since he has the guilt that Spider-Man carries, and that's why he puts on the mask. He is hesitant to help out Tony, but Tony manipulates him to do so, making Miles believe these heroes are wrong. We get to the airport battle where Miles would steal Cap's shield like how Tom Holland did in canon, and he would go on to fight Falcon and Bucky, overpowering the soldier, and Falcon would go on to try and attack him, but Miles would use his venom blast to disable Falcon's wings and immobilize him. This means Red Wing never helps Falcon off Spider-Man, and Miles leaves with Bucky and Falcon being defeated. Miles would go on to fight Captain America, where I can see Miles using his invisibility to get the jump on Captain America, and even clashing with Captain America's shield by using a full-powered Venom strike that sends the two flying. The two would recover and Cap would get away, however Miles would chase after him, but Falcon and Bucky are now back and they try to come back for revenge. As this happens, Ant-Man, seeing Cap struggle and the others not doing too well, goes giant. Falcon would tell Bucky to go with Cap while he fights Spider-Man. Miles dodges Falcon's attacks and shoots two webs with energy flowing through it, disabling Falcon's wings for good. Captain America and Bucky would be getting away at this point, while Miles would help fight Ant-Man alongside with Iron Man and War Machine. Cap and Bucky are getting away at this point, and Miles would help fight Ant-Man alongside with Iron Man and War Machine. Miles gets an idea and he decides to fight power with power and would gather up all the energy building up inside of him, telling both Iron Man and War Machine to get out of the way. They would get out the way with Miles running up at Ant-Man and holding in the energy for a second longer to jump at Ant-Man's face. Ant-Man would be defeated, however Miles would also just fall to the ground due to him overexerting himself, and Iron Man would say good job to the kid. Now, the rest of Civil War is going to be playing out essentially the same as in canon, however with a few minor differences. One, Falcon isn't going to be around, so he's not going to be dodging Vision's blast, which means War Machine never gets shot or Vision never even shoots the blast in the first place. Now this means for the Civil War finale, it's going to be Iron Man, War Machine, and Vision who just stomp Captain America and Bucky, and it's just going to be wrapping up Civil War a lot faster. Now we can talk about the events of Homecoming. I don't usually like deconstructing and just starting from scratch, so we are going to be keeping some stuff from Homecoming so we can have an overall structure. We're going to be keeping Vulture as the main villain, the theme of Spider-Man wanting to elevate as hero, however everything else we are stripping away. Iron Man will be in the movie, but is mainly a way to show how Miles wants to show off and be a hero, but Tony says how he needs to leave it to the big guys. But he's not really Miles' mentor, or doesn't really act like it, but rather is just protective and wants to ensure his safety, like how a normal hero should. To make this clearer, Tony himself isn't even going to be showing up when he helps Spider-Man at the ferry, it's just going to be the suit itself. Also, the Shocker will not be Vulture's right-hand man, but rather it is going to be the Prowler. Miles doesn't know who this is yet due to him wearing a mask, however the viewers know well who it is. And I think in this film, instead of seeing stuff that Tom Holland Spider-Man would do, maybe have Miles hanging out with Uncle Aaron every now and then just to have these two bond with each other, making the reveal a lot more impactful when it happens. And also, this is a way we get a connection between the main villain and Miles off the bat, and this gives us a way to have Miles grow personally and not just elevate as a hero, but elevate as a person in general while dealing with this conflict. Most of the film is very similar, but obviously just a Miles twist to things. We still got Ned along with Liz, and Tony throughout the movie wants Miles to go away, but Miles is persistent and shows how he wants to be a hero, someone who will not fail Peter, and he tries to fight like Peter. However, due to Miles acting like he can do everything that Peter can, Vulture and the others are easily able to beat him up, and when we get to the ferry scene, things just get way out of hand. Like I said, Prowler would be the one leading the main platoon of Vulture goons, and mid-fight at the ferry, Miles uses electricity to mess up his tech, and this would cause Prowler's mask to malfunction, revealing his identity. Before Miles can process though, the ferry splits and Miles needs to save everyone. He tries, but he isn't strong enough. However, Iron Man comes in, showing to Miles that the other heroes got it and he just needs to go. Miles says how he doesn't care if he dies because, like Peter, he will die for the sake of others. That's the whole reason Miles is even alive to this day, and he needs to make it up to him. Tony says how he wouldn't want this, as his suit then leaves the area. Miles for a bit stops being Spider-Man and tries to focus on his life similar to Peter. Tony says how Peter wouldn't want this, as his suit then leaves the area. Miles for a bit stops being Spider-Man and tries to focus on his life similar to how Peter did, which leads into the whole Vulture scenario in the car. He would try to stop the Vulture, but like in canon, he would be stopped by Vulture's goon, but instead of it being Shocker this time, it's the Prowler. The two would begin fighting, with Miles really trying to hold everything back because that's his uncle, whereas the Prowler doesn't know that this is his nephew and he's ruthlessly just beating down Spider-Man. As he's about to deal the finishing blow, Miles then takes off his mask, revealing that it's his nephew, and Aaron would just be hesitant at this point and confused. Prowler being surprised allows Miles to get the jump on Prowler, using his electricity to incapacitate Prowler's tech. He would use a combo of webs to then restrain Prowler, telling him that he has to go and beat up his boss now, and Prowler understands. He says they can talk about this later, and Prowler quickly warns Miles about Vulture and says how he will show no mercy. Aaron only does what he has to get by, but Miles shows how this isn't the right way to go about it. And because of that, Aaron understands and promises to turn himself in whenever this is all over, and says good luck to Miles. Spider-Man will go on to fight Vulture, and like in canon fails and nearly dies from being crushed. However, he is able to shoot out a venom blast that partially disables Vulture's wing. This means when he's trying to get up the Avengers tech, his wing simply would be glitching, but we see how far he's willing to go for his family. Meanwhile, we get inner dialogue with Miles, where we hear Spider-Man saying to Miles he's got to get out of the area while he still can, and after today, he's gonna have to be the next Spider-Man. Miles would say, how can he do it? How can he be like him? And Spider-Man says, well, simply, you don't. Just do your best to protect the city. Electricity flows through Miles' eyes as he emits a shockwave that removes the rubble. The rest of the final act then goes very similar to in canon. He doesn't join the Avengers, and Prowler does go to jail and turn himself in after the events. After this is over, Prowler still turns himself in, he's a man of his word, and Miles would basically go about his life. However, we would have two post-credit scenes. The original one with Scorpion and Vulture, and a whole news scene where we see a man watching the news network and sees Spider-Man defeating the Vulture. We see the room as well covered in newspapers of the Spider's showings and reports of the webhead. This man has fought Peter Parker before, and now that this new Spider-Man is rising up, he will be hunting this one. He would smile as he would then say, Spider-Man, let the hunt begin, as we then look at Kraven the Hunter. And this is where I'm going to be leaving things off. I know Infinity War, Endgame, Far From Home, there's still stuff to cover. One, I think Infinity War and Endgame really just don't change too much due to Thanos being so much more powerful. Even if Miles has Electric Blast, it doesn't make too much of a difference. 2, Far From Home more so fits the MCU timeline, and this version of Spider-Man, it doesn't really fit, and the movie would just be even more of a mess than the original. So I'm going to be leaving it off here, and if you guys do want a part 2 where I cover the Kraven the Hunter story, let me know down in the comment section. If you want more MCU what ifs, subscribe if you are new to the channel, hit the bell icon, comment down below what ifs you would like me to do in the future, and follow me on Twitter. Now I'm gonna go get a taco. Goodbye. Taco Tuesday!